kind of a redo video. Unfortunately, the video that this video is in was made earlier, but yeah, it got had noise in the sound. I was actually talking about how good the camera works, but there was apparently water in the microphone and waterproof camera, and yeah, so the sound was crap. So, you know, too bad. Democracy anyway. So I'll do it again, I guess. Really not in the mood. Yeah, too bad, right? Okay, well, that was the subject. This whole idea of how do we organize human beings into these things called societies and have rules where they can efficiently govern themselves. I think I joked about dictatorship in the sense that it would be probably okay if it was benevolent dictatorship. I mean, it's probably not a terrible way to go. Or that you could even create an artificial dictatorship in the sense that, well, what if, you voted for your dictator, but it was because of a contest first. You had the smartest guy in the world contest or something, and then you took the top 100 people from that contest and you just decided to vote for one of them to be world dictator. Yeah, I would go for it. I'd say yes. Sounds like a good idea to me. Better idea than what we have. But anyway, for our individual social democracies, the concept is this democracy thing, and the democracy with this idea, without the idea of representation, is if you're not representing something real about the person, then it just doesn't matter. Having a vote doesn't matter if the only thing I'm allowed to vote from is the perspective of my geography. If I'm allowed to vote as somebody who lives in a region from that regional perspective, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I can't have choices that are just okay. You're voting for a region essentially, and you're not voting your philosophy. Your philosophy is irrelevant essentially. You're giving two choices of candidates, and they've both been constricted, conformed to attempt to get the most votes. So they're saying what most people want to hear. They're not saying anything you want to hear. They're just saying what most people want to hear. And that's not a choice. So yeah, our geography is now represented where our ideology ought to be. Our philosophy should be what gets represented. What we think, what we believe in. Those are the things that are important. Where my feet are is irrelevant, effectively, in many respects. In all respects that I care about. I could care less about having the right to vote as a regional person. I have no regional interest. I have no regional self-interest beyond something simple like, yeah, don't put the nuclear test, bomb site next door to my house. Yeah, not in my backyard, thank you. But that's the extent of my geographic interest. Yeah, so this is used to just totally... God damn these mosquitoes and other such horrid life forms. There's some people who'd probably vote for mosquitoes on Mars. Jesus, assholes. Anyway, so I'm not doing a very good job of this. So look, there's two components we need: instant runoff voting, and to get rid of that geographic bias where we don't need it, where it doesn't have to exist, and have something more representative of people. So it's wrong to have legislative bodies that are not representing people in the first place. It's just you don't need to do that. Everybody should win a congressional election. The Congress is supposed to be representatives, just like the Senate's supposed to be representatives. There should be no way to lose a representative election, especially the Congress or a state legislature. Those bodies should be nobody should be allowed to say, my constituents, and mean 30 or 40% of the people, in his district who hate his guts. You shouldn't be able to call somebody who hates your guts a constituent. That's right off the bat something you want to avoid. That doesn't sound like a good idea, does it? No, it doesn't. And that can be fixed tomorrow. We just got to open the election up and just say anybody can vote for anybody. Use instant runoff voting, which is just a process to weed down your choice to the ones that are realistic. So you could vote for 10 people, put them in order, and whoever's the highest ranked that has a viable chance of winning is where your vote would go. But I think anybody can understand it's just a huge difference if everybody gets to win the election. I mean, that's great, right? Everybody gets to win the congressional part of the election. Why shouldn't they? It's a representative election. And all of America would have a representative. Every single citizen could say, that's my guy. I voted for him. He has my vote in his pocket. I put him there. And that should be their right. The basic civil right is to have a representative in government who will, do your stuff for you. There. Say the words you want said. And instead we all get to vote for two kinds of things, vanilla and chocolate, and that's it. No other flavor. And the vanilla and the chocolate are looking an awful lot like each other. Especially now. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it's kind of funny. The chocolate has gone all vanilla-y. So anyway, yeah, I'm really I did a much better job of this morning than I'm doing now, but isn't that always the case? So I'm just saying democracy can be so easily fixed. We haven't touched it, we haven't improved it in hundreds of years, and it's a huge difference from hundreds of years ago. We have computers, we can use that technology to make a better system. We're not stuck in geographic districts in terms of our ideology. 200 years ago, geographic bias worked because most people, all the Quakers lived in one place, and all the whatevers and the others, they all lived in one area. So representation that way worked. But segregation doesn't work anymore. We're now spread out, and we need some way to make those spread out minorities to give them their fair representation. That's all this is about. It's not unfairness, it's a fair representation. So if there's 250 million, if there's 25 million cigarette smokers in America, they should have their share of congressional representation. It doesn't matter what ideology people, if they're far right or far left or whatever they are, they should have a representative, not some Democrat, Republican, placate the majoritarian candidate. It's just nonsense to make a choice between asshole and idiot. Why should I have to make that choice? I should have a representative. Yeah. I can explain this to a 10-year-old better than I can explain it to people who are already glued to this system. Because a 10-year-old could understand, because they could understand from, oh, you're making a democracy, I get it. Oh, yeah, it'd be better if everybody gets to win. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Oh, yeah, it'd be better if your ideology is represented, not where you live. Right, where you live isn't nearly as important as what you think, so all this would be obvious. But because people are just so stuck in tradition, they put up these insane roadblocks, and they keep thinking everybody's going to, because you do something electronically that somehow, the CIA is going to steal your shoe size and, force all the shoe companies not to make your size shoes. This is what I did this morning, though. The more I talked about it, the more I just realized there's just no point in talking because people are so fucking dumb. It just is such a horrid waste of energy. I pulled all this energy, mosquito watching the mosquito, all this energy to form words and have them fly out of my mouth. And what's the point? These people just can't hear anything. They can't understand anything. Even simple things. Like I said, this is just so obvious. The spoiler effect in elections. Let's just look at that simple thing. So you have an election for president, and it just happens that two guys get, on one side of an issue get pissed off, and so but anyway, you end up with three candidates, and two of them are, from let's just use red and blue as the parties. And two of them are of the blue philosophy, but they just fundamentally disagree on one subject. And so they both say, I'm going to run. And the other guy says, I'm going to run. And neither one of them will yield. And so the blues are the most popular. But unfortunately, the two blue candidates being in the race means they're going to steal votes from each other and dilute their vote count. and it lets the red guy win. So the red guy could theoretically win, which is 40% of the vote, because the two blue guys will wipe each other out. And this basically is what happened when George Bush got elected the first time. In a subtler effect of that is that Ralph Nader siphoned off just enough votes to let George Bush squeeze in. And that's what it ends up doing for you as an American. It ends up giving you what you don't want. Yeah. What didn't win, what didn't earn it. And it also denies third parties any capacity to grow, because everybody does the calculation. I did it in that election with Ralph Nader. I would have voted for Ralph Nader if I didn't know he was just going to get George Bush elected. So, if I had the freedom to vote for him as my first choice, I would have. And then if you have an election system that instant runoff voting, then you know what people's first choices were. People are free to vote for the third party, and the third party has a chance to grow because people see its real power. They see the fact that it could be catching up to the Democrats in popularity or something else, and you'd see it visually in the results that they're almost there, and they would have a solid chance to win, because nobody would be calculating, I'll vote against what I really want just because I have to stop evil from winning. You wouldn't be thinking about how to protect yourself against the greatest evil. You'd be thinking about what your real interests are. I didn't even say that very well. But anyway, so instant runoff voting is all win. And when applied with getting rid of the geographic bias and having legislatures that are ideological legislatures, where all the people are represented proportionally, where all candidates have to earn enough support to have a seat. So theoretically you could have thousands of people run, and just using a computer all the votes would be worn down to the viable candidates, and the unviable candidates would give up their votes to the viable ones and just keep percolating it up until you have 100 representatives who have all affirmative votes, and all people are notified of who their vote went to, what candidate is their representative. No, not really that complicated, not difficult to implement, and hugely meaningful in terms of giving people an incentive to be part of the system. I mean, frankly, the only reason why I vote is because I have a serious horniness for civics, for this whole idea of having a civilization. And so I have to participate out of principle. But as a practical matter, I've always lived in districts where my ideology is a minority, and I will be guaranteed no representation. My entire life, I've never had a congressman I voted for. My presidential candidate did win a couple of times, but presidents are sort of irrelevant. They don't have any real power, compared to the Congress. So having a congressman would mean so much more to me than having a presidential candidate win. We just don't have to have this broken, silly, idiotic democracy governed by geographic interests and completely blind to our philosophical passions and character. I mean, it's just totally unjustifiable to have a system that cares more about this geography than it cares about what I think. I mean, it's just... frog. Yeah, give me a fright. Scary frog. Scary frog, scary frog. Alright, I'm not going to scare it. I'm not going to bother singing the Scary Frog song. Stupid video. No, I won't bother with that either. Alright, I could have done this better. I did do it better in the morning, but too bad. But anyway, it's initiation of the subject. 2 simple reforms. Instant runoff voting. That means having a progressive list of your choices, and having being able to vote for more than one candidate, and having your vote through technology appropriately applied to its practicality. That doesn't sound sexy. anyway, and getting rid of the geographic bias. That's what I call it, because no one else ever has talked about it. But the geographic consumption of your representation, and to acquire a system that represents your ideology, your entire human character, not where your feet are. Yeah, that's it. Two huge reforms. To fix that, little tiny fixes, giant, huge impact, huge impact. We'd actually have a real argument about real policy instead of having a bunch of sellouts, a bunch of used car salesmen. The two-party system is an abomination, disgusting, grotesque, hideous, destruction. It's a guarantees. It's a guaranteed sellout to the stupidest, not even the commonest denominator, the dumbest denominator. It's just disaster. And it's just for special interests. So if you like having a cheat, if you like being a cheater, if you like because some party gives you a special interest cheat, but that's the only reason why you could want the two-party system, is because you want to cheat. Yeah, enough said. You don't want an honest, fair fight. Cheater.